What's up, guys? It's Crashin'. All of the maps have leaked for Battlefield 6, so I thought it would be a good time to talk about it. I think this leak looks pretty legitimate. I want to go over kind of what they are, a brief overview of them, and then compare them to previous Battlefield titles and kind of see where we're at and how this game is shaping up when it comes to content. That was one of the biggest downfalls of Battlefield 2042, in my opinion, was a lackluster amount of launch maps, followed by trickle-fed other ones. You know, they had to remake the old ones, and it just didn't feel good. And you start to see my point that I've been making over the last several videos and over on the podcast is like, that is the replayability in these types of games where you have the respawn is where you play at, right? Like the scenery, the routes, the angles, all that kind of stuff, the different objectives. That is where a lot of the replayability comes from. So the amount of maps is crucial, in my opinion. It's one of the big things. So let's talk about these things. Now, this does come to us from a Russian data miner. Seemed like a real straight shooter, guys. But anyway, it's over on Telegram, the BF1 account over on Telegram, but it does definitely look legitimate. You guys can see for yourself. But as always, leaks don't always happen. Even if we have learned the hard way in the past, even if leaks are legitimate, sometimes things happen between now and launch where things get changed, things get pushed back, pulled back, and turned out later as post-launch content. We've seen it a lot with different AAA games. They have the stuff in the can already. They decide to hold it back and call it post-launch content. So that could happen. But for the sake of this video, we're going to go under the assumption, and it is an assumption that may not happen. We're going to go under the assumption that these are going to be the launch maps, which is some pretty good news. So let's get it up on screen. It was in Russian. I put it in Google Translate so we could see it for my English-speaking audience, and you guys can start to see what we're talking about. We got the Abbasid from Cairo, outskirts from Cairo. It appears that there's kind of a theme here of two from each location. Battery and Limestone, both on Gibraltar. Capstone and Tungsten, both from Tajikistan. Dumbo and Aftermath from Brooklyn. Eastwood and Badlands from California. So it's pretty cool to see a lot of US maps for me, and just in my opinion, but it is noteworthy that there are quite a few US maps. A couple of those you'll recognize, like the Capstone one. That's where a lot of the air combat comes from in the trailers. I feel like a couple of those other ones you guys have seen from the leaked gameplay that's been happening in some of the Battlefield Labs playtest. Then the most interesting one, kind of in my opinion, the one that's going to be a little bit different is Granite. You guys can see at the bottom that is takes place in California, and it's allegedly the Battle Royale and Gauntlet mode. Now, a lot of leaks and stuff have told us over time that the Battle Royale mode is likely to come several months after launch. That just kind of makes sense. That's kind of Byron Beatty's MO. The guy that's in charge of it did it with Warzone, gonna do it over here. That makes sense. Once the hype of this dies down a little bit, you get another injection of hype where you bring out the Battle Royale mode. But at launch, we could see this map in the Gauntlet mode, which is kind of a smaller squad to squad type, more competitive gameplay mode that is allegedly coming to the game. So we could still get to see that map on launch, which will be really cool. So for those of you playing at home, that's 10 launch maps, which is really, really good. And for context, Battlefield 2042 launched with 7, 5 launched with 8, Battlefield 4 launched with 10. So we're actually on par with Battlefield 4, and Battlefield 1 launched with 9 maps. So we're right in the pocket. And if you're looking at all these, we're actually, from the most recent Battlefields, we're actually on the high side of that, which I think is wonderful and really, really good news. Again, I'm a map fiend. I love them. I even love the premium stuff, guys. I know I'm an old head, but I used to get so excited for map DLC drops when they were, drop 3 to 4 new maps. Was so sick. So I love maps. I love playing in new areas and exploring them and learning them and getting a feel for them. So to see 10 maps, I think is really good. What do you guys think of that number? I think it is a pretty good number. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later. Then if we go over into the next column, we have some remasters. We have Operation Firestorm, we have Propaganda, we have Tala Market, and we have Downtown, which is crazy to see a Battlefield Hardline map in there, in my opinion, but very interesting. So these have a little bit of uncertainty with them, right? Portal 2.0 is rumored to be coming back. That would make a lot of sense for those maps to be in there with some of the others as well. But I'm also hopeful that they just throw them in the loop, man, especially if you have a server browser, which probably won't happen, but if you did have a server browser, you could jump in at the spot in the map rotation where you want to play these. You could have custom servers that play the old ones versus the new ones, or in my opinion, some of these haven't played in so long. A lot of people haven't even played at all. So just jump them all in together and have all that playable content in the official All Out Warfare would be awesome. In my opinion, I think it would be really, really cool. Now, if we look over at the third and final column, those are the campaign missions. I believe there are 9 of them. Prologue implementation takes place in Gibraltar, night raid in Cairo, mission to protect takes place in Brooklyn, drone attack in Tajikistan, invasion in Gibraltar, attack in Brooklyn, and the tank mission from Cairo and war in Tajikistan. So there could be some weird stuff in there with the Google Translate from Russian. I feel like that some of that sounds kind of silly, but apparently there are around 9 campaign missions, and I don't know what to think of that, guys, because if you look at those, a lot of those locations are the same. We know this from some of the leaks and from internal employees who have talked about it, from a large article that came out a couple weeks ago. We talked about it all over on the podcast. I can't remember the name of the article, and I apologize for that. But a former employee said that the campaign was the weak spot of this game. It was really far behind. And you could even deduce that from just official news and things that have happened, right? Because they shut down Ridgeline Studios after Marcus Leto left. He got, it didn't seem to be on good terms based on his X account post. And then they went ahead and closed that studio down. They were working on the campaign missions. They had to shift that to other studios. So that just in and of itself kind of makes you worry about the campaign a little bit. And if they do take place on cutout parts of the multiplayer maps, that'll be just a little bit of a letdown in my opinion. But I'm not a huge campaign guy. At the end of the day, if the campaign isn't that great, it's not a huge loss for me personally. I know there have been some really good Battlefield campaigns, especially like Battlefield 3 and stuff, but it's just not something that gets me personally excited. If it does you, that might be something to look out for and be a little bit concerned about. So what does all of this say? Again, like I've said, we have in a couple days a multiplayer launch. We're probably going to hear then about pre-orders and probably early beta access. We know at some point there is going to be an open beta because they did talk about the open beta, but we'll still see how they're going to handle pre-orders and pre-order bonuses coming up. But again, like I've said, everything so far, the tangible information that we do have looks really promising for this title. It's not time to get excited yet, but it's time to definitely pay attention because having 10 maps is on par up there with Battlefield 4. So this leaves a burning question that I would ask you guys as well down in the comments. Is this enough maps? On the surface, it's on par with Battlefield 4, so you have to feel good about that. But in my opinion, I think everything with the longevity of this game is going to come down to the post-launch cycle. Are they going to go down the rabbit hole of crazy or even just a lot of different skins and pay the bills and make the shareholders happy with a lot of skins? Or are we going to get quite a few maps to try to keep the player base high, maybe less on the skins, but more people are around to buy them to justify it that way? I definitely hope for the latter, but I do hold my breath because we could start out with a great number, right? We could start out with 10 maps, a big, 4 remasters and a big granite map and all this stuff, and it looks great. But then if we find out that we're going to get only 1 map every 3 months, 1 map every 4 months, it's going to start to wear thin fairly quickly with today's gamers and today's player base. That is for sure. And, there's always in the back of your mind, what if they have to fix all of them like they did last time? That would also take some time. And it did take some time in Battlefield 2042 to go back and fix them. But overall, I think this is pretty promising news. We're going to keep our eye on it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you next time.